Hello and welcome to this video where we'll take a closer look at strings. Strings, as you already saw in the last video, are basically how we represent textual data in Ruby, and they're everywhere. So it's very important to get good at working with strings. And strings are defined by putting them within these double quotes. So I'll say, my name is Masroor, within double quotes. This is a string. So I can say sentence equals my name is Masroor, and then I can print out sentence. Right? My name is Masroor. I can also specify this is a string by doing this, by using single quotes around it. Okay? This also tells Ruby that this is a string. So let's run this. There you go. My name is Masroor. That works as well. Now, there is a difference between when you use single quotes versus double quotes. With single quotes, you won't be able to do string interpolation, which we're going to look at next. But just wanted to let you know that there is a difference between the two. So let's look at string concatenation. What is string concatenation? Let's say first name equals Masroor. Okay, run this. There you go, Masroor, and then last name equals Hussein. Now, what if you wanted to print the first name and the last name together in one line? You can do that by using what's called string concatenation. So I can say something like this: puts first name plus last name. Let's see what that does. Run. Check it out. It added Hussein, last name, to the first name and then printed it out. But obviously there's no space in the middle, so it looks bad. So let's do that. One way of doing that is I can say plus, and then I can put an empty space within quotes, plus last name. I can run that. There you go, Masroor Hussain. Perfect. But this code is starting to look a little ugly. And this is where string interpolation comes in. What if I wanted to say my first name is Masroor and my last name is Hussein? What if I wanted to say this? All right, let me make some room here. If I run it, my first name is Masroor and my last name is Hussein. But see, I'm typing out Masroor and Hussein. I already have them as first name and last name variables. How can I incorporate that within this string? I can do that by using what's called string interpolation. I can use the value of my variables within the string. How do you do that? In Ruby, within the quotes, you can do pound, open curly brace, and close curly brace, and within it, you can specify the variable. Okay? So my first name is pound, open curly brace, first name. My last name is right here. Instead of Hussein, pound, open curly brace, last name. Okay? And if I do this, and if I run it, check it out. My first name is Masroor, and my last name is Hussein. Perfect. So it worked. Now, what if I use single quotes here, like I did before? Because that's also a string. If I did that, and if I hit run, check it out, it didn't work. My first name is first name and my last name is last name. Okay? So string interpolation only works when you have double quotes in Ruby. So that's something important to know. If you're trying to figure out why something isn't working, take a look at the type of string that you've used. All right. So you see how I have this code running here, and then it's evaluating in this REPL interactive area right here. I can write directly here. I can say first name equals Masroor. Okay, and then I can actually reference it. There you go. Last name equals Hussein. All right, so full name, I can say equals first name plus last name. There you go. Okay, now I can also say full name equals pound, open curly brace, first name, and then the space, since I'm within the quote here, since I'm in the string, I can just leave an open space and then last name. There you go. That works perfectly. I use string interpolation to achieve the same effect as having this right here without the pluses and everything. All right. So what I'm doing right here, see, I'm typing right into this interactive screen. This is possible because of REPL IT. It's giving me an interactive Ruby screen by default. And a lot of programming languages actually allow you to use something like REPL by default. They come built in with it, like Python has it, Ruby also has it, and it's called Interactive Ruby. So right here, REPL's giving it to you, but what if you're in your local, right? What if you're using a Playground RB file and then a terminal to run it? How do you actually access an interactive Ruby screen like that? Well, in your local, you can type in IRB, stands for Interactive Ruby, hit enter, and there you go. You're in your interactive Ruby shell. So it kind of works the same as the REPL. I can say something like this here too. And then last name equals sin. And then I can say full name equals first name plus last name. So I can say full name. Okay, perfect. You see how this works? The same way you can do this in your AWS screen as well. You can start IRB pretty much anywhere you have Ruby installed. And if this is too small an area for you, you can bring this to the top over here, and then you have access to the whole screen. And to clear it up, you can hit Control L to go on top. So even here, if I wanted to clear up my screen from within my IRB session, I can hit Control L. It takes me to the top. That won't work in REPL because REPL provides this interactive screen, and this is not really IRB, even though it works that way. This is provided by REPL itself. So to clear this screen up, I can always just hit run, and then it just runs this program and it goes to the top, right? So if you have nothing here, it just goes to the top with a nil and starts up. All right, so it's a little trick you can use. Okay, so we looked at string concatenation, we looked at string interpolation, methods. And how do we find them? All right. So here you saw my full name. Now, how do I know what type of item full name is? We already know it's a string, but how do we know programmatically that this is a string? I can type in full name.class string. All right. And you can actually take it a step further. You can even just say masroor.class string. And then what if I did 10, the number 10 dot class? That's an integer. Okay, what if I did 10.0 dot class? So float. Perfect. So you can see that you can invoke methods directly on primitive types as well, which is pretty insane if you're coming from something like Java or C, because in Ruby, everything is an object, truly. Everything is an object, even the number 10, the integer type, that is also an object, all right? So you can invoke methods on it like class. Okay, clearing that up. If I go to first name, which is, Masroor, so first name, if I hit the up arrow, it just brings up whatever I had before, and you can keep going up, right? So first name, how do I know the methods that are available, the built-in methods for strings, for example? And type in first name.methods. Check out all these methods that are available by default, right? So there's capitalize, there's regular capitalize, split, etc., etc. So many of them. Let's try a couple. Here's a 2s method. You saw that my number 10.class, it was integer. Actually, I'll move this up a little. Okay, so 10.class was integer. What if I did 10.2s? So you see how now it's within quotes? What if I did 10.2s dot class string? So I converted 10 to a string, and then I called the class method on it to see what type of class it was. This dot something dot something. I call two methods. This is called method chaining. Okay? And you'll see a lot of this as you develop more and more code. You will likely chain methods like this to take output of one, feed it to another, and keep going. All right? Obviously, it's not going to go too deep because that'll just be ugly code, but you'll definitely see a bit of this. Let's pick another method. Let's do length. Let's say, when I clear this up, I had my full name. Okay? So full name dot length 15. All right, that's the length of Mashroor Hossain, but with the space in between. This counts for one character, so 15 characters total. All right, I can also do something like this: full name dot reverse. You already saw what reverse did to arrays. It reversed the ordering of the elements in the array. Well, you can call it on the string as well, and it reverses the ordering of the string. Full name, so just in reverse. And I can do full name dot capitalize. Notice what it did. It basically took the first letter only, capitalized it, and Hossain was capital before, and it made it lowercase h. All right, so you have to be careful about which method you use when. Then another common method is empty, false. If I do empty string, which there's nothing in there, dot empty, true, perfect. So that means this is empty. But what if I did this dot nil? False. So this, even though it's empty, it's not nil. Remember, Ruby objects, everything has some kind of value and it's not nil. So this, even though it's empty, is not nil. But what if nil dot nil? That's true. So nil itself is nil. So something to keep in mind when you're doing comparisons. Let's say if you're using an if statement, empty may be a better test for it. All right, moving on. What if you have a sentence like this? Let's say sentence equals welcome to the jungle. Okay? And then you wanted to take this sequence, the jungle, and replace it with utopia. How do you do that? You can do this. You can do sentence.sub and then give the sequence the jungle and then what you want to replace it with, utopia. Check it out. Welcome to utopia. And this sub and gsub are two methods that you're going to see a lot. Sub is substitute, gsub is global substitute, meaning if you had, let's say, a paragraph and there were multiple occurrences of the jungle, it would replace all of them with utopia. All right, so that's the difference between sub and gsub. Again, you'll use it quite a lot. Okay, moving on. Let's look at the next thing I had on my item. So we've covered some common methods and seen how to check out methods. Actually, I want to say first name dot methods. I'm going to encourage you at this time to actually run a few methods on a few string sequences, right? Practice, see what they do. Get used to it. It's one thing to see me do a few of them. It's another thing to actually try them yourself. So I would encourage you at this time to try a few of them, see what they do, just so you get comfortable using it and also build some muscle memory in your fingers for typing Ruby code. All right? Okay, clearing that up. The next thing I want to cover, variable assignment, right? So let's say first name equals Mashroor, which we've been seeing. What if I say new first name equals first name? Then new first name, if I invoke it, you see it says Mashroor. And it may be tempting to think new first name is pointing to first name. So this variable is pointing to this variable. But that is actually not the case. When you do first name equals Mashroor, first name is pointing to the space in memory that holds this string, Mashroor. And when you do new first name equals first name, new first name is actually pointing to that same spot in memory that first name is pointing to. So the variable is not pointing to the variable. The variable is pointing to whatever that variable is pointing to. So let's see some proof of that. If I change first name to be John now, then if this new first name was pointing to first name, this new first name should be John, right? But no, new first name is still pointing to that same spot in memory. It's just first name now has been reassigned and pointing to a different spot. So new first name, you see, is still Masroor. All right. This is something very important to keep in mind because it may come up from time to time and people make mistakes with this a lot because this doesn't work the same in all programming languages. It's called pass by value or pass by reference and assignment. And there are different terms that different programmers use. I would just like for you to keep in mind that in Ruby, always think if a variable is pointing to another variable, it's actually pointing to the location in memory where that variable is pointing to. So that's what I wanted to talk about in terms of variable assignment. And then the last thing is escaping. So if you look at this sentence within single quotes, if I say the new first name is pound open curly brace new first name, and you saw that single quotes don't support string interpolation. So this should not work, right? But when you see the output of that, you see that it didn't work. But you see it's within double quotes, and then there's this backslash. What is this backslash? This backslash basically means escape the special character that immediately follows it. All right? So basically, pound open curly brace and whatever inside it, that is a special sequence. And that evaluates to the value of that variable. But this backslash escaped it. Therefore, I can escape things. Meaning, I can actually say within double quotes, I can say the new first name is, I can say backslash, pound open curly brace, new first name, close curly brace. And you see, even by using double quotes, it still didn't work because it escaped it. So you can escape other things. All right, let's clear that up and let's look at another escape sequence. Within single quotes, I can say, Masroor asked, "Hey John, how are you doing?" You see how I used single quotes and then there's single quotes within it, right? Within the statement. If I hit enter, you see there's a problem. There's a syntax error. As soon as it reached that first single quote, it thought the quote or the string was over, and then there was other stuff following it, other characters. So Ruby didn't know what to do with it, threw an error. Okay, now how can we fix this? We can escape it. So if I escape this, if I do the backslash, right? And then I do the backslash before this one, then hit enter, check it out, it worked. Masroor asked, within quotes, "Hey John, how are you doing?" Right? Worked perfectly. So that backslash is something you can use to escape special characters. And that's all I'm going to leave for special characters. We're not going to use it too much. If we do use it, you'll get exposure at that time. All right, but just know that they exist. So if you need to escape something, you can use that. All right, so we've covered a lot in this video, and I'm going to leave it at this. And in the next video, we're going to continue talking about strings, more specifically how to get input from the user. Right now, you see how we're just typing things out, and we're not necessarily getting the user to write anything. Let's say, what if I wanted to prompt the user using the application for their first name? We are going to learn how to do that, and we'll do that in the next video. See you there.